I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. Welcome, everybody. May we please have a roll call?
Miranda Marcus. Here. Don Bastian.
Here.
Karen Briggs. Here. Lori Chassie. Michael Childress. Michael Crandall.
Here.
Patty Guston. Here. William Henneth.
Here.
Brian Krajewski. Lynn LaPlan.
Here.
Greg Schwarzy. Mike Fedorovic. Nina Yu. Here.
Wonderful. Do we have any public comments?
No.
Okay. I move to approve the minutes, item 4A 23-2137 from our Home Advisory Group regular meeting on Tuesday, June 6, 2023. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Moving on to item 5A, 23-3174, recommendation for approval of a third modification to a Home Investment Partnerships Act agreement with DuPage Pads, project number HM20-04B, tenant-based rental assistance, extending the project completion date through February 29th, 2024.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 5B, 23-3175, recommendation for approval of a conditional commitment of Home Investment Partnerships Act funds with Catholic Charities, project number HM21-02A, tenant-based rental assistance in the amount of $300,000.
So moved. Second.
Okay, wonderful. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Number 6, discussion of, okay. Because we were prepared for this, the impending federal shutdown, Mary and I feel very strongly that we helped avoid that. So
There you go.
You're
At least
welcome.
for the
We haven't put it on the agenda.
It would have crashed. Yes, exactly. So we're very proud of ourselves that we planned ahead and we didn't need to. So
I would like to talk about it though.
Absolutely.
Because we have only bought 45 days. So
right.
just to be aware of what the potential impact would be to CDBG and home funded projects. So what we learned in the ramp up was that we would be able to draw down funds for projects that were already sort of underway. But anything that would require a HUD staff person to approve would be held up. So what that could potentially mean, you know, now we're looking 45 days out. That's the period of time where we'll be starting to put together our action plan for 2024. We may have other projects where our environmental reviews need to be approved. So we're definitely not out of the woods. So what our biggest concern is that worst case scenario is we have projects that are delayed, and then we don't meet our timeliness expenditure rate, which can come with penalty. Not, you need a couple of consecutive years, but it still would be sort of a strike against us. So and HUD notoriously does not take any accountability for anything that they delay on their end when they're measuring your timeliness. So that's what we're concerned about. So so for any projects that would be underway, we could still draw down funds. We don't have to worry about, you know, carrying payroll or delaying payments to contractors, but projects that would be that haven't yet been approved could be delayed. So
yes,
I do have some good news. HUD found some extra money, so the employees will be working for another week covered under the extra money they found. So there will be people there. Let me just put it that way.
well, after the 40, I mean, right now they're all working.
They're all going to be right, but if there's another one,
Yeah.
they have money for a week after
Okay.
that one.
So
So we will get it done before then.
yes, and in 45 days, we will recreate everything that we did this time. Like basketball players who don't watch their socks during the playoffs, we will do that to make sure. I think we figured it out. But yes, this just did basically duct tape it for 45 days.
Right.
So we're going to be hopeful that.
But my biggest concern was, would we be able to continue to draw down federal funds? You know, with the it's the ELOC system, for the line of credit system. I was concerned that we wouldn't be able to draw that down, and then you're talking about the county carrying the payroll for our HUD funded staff, and whether or not we would be reimbursing municipalities for projects that they had expended funds for. So, but it doesn't appear that that's going to be an issue. So, and hopefully it'll be a moot point and they'll get 2024 funded in the next 45 days. So.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Right.
Would you like to introduce then?
Yeah, so under other business, I do have something else to talk about. So particularly for the municipal members, I want to make sure that you're aware that the county under its ad hoc committee on housing solutions has contracted with an organization called Grounded Solutions Network and they're going to be assisting us in developing a plan over the next 18 months to identify barriers to the sort of underproduction of affordable housing in the county. We're very much looking forward to working with them. We're going to be in a cohort with a county in another state and a city in another state, just sort of in a learning cohort, but also getting tremendous amounts of data analysis and technical assistance from Grounded Solutions Network. So that's one, I think, really exciting thing that's happening at the county level. The other thing that's happening on a regional level is that HUD has released a notice of funding availability for, they're calling it CDBG Pro, which is, what is it? Something removing obstacles, pathways to remove obstacles to affordable housing is PRO. CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, has graciously accepted the lead role in pulling together a regional application. Jonathan Birch is here from CMAP. He did this presentation to the Development Committee a couple of minutes ago, so I apologize to anybody who is about to sit through it twice, but it's not a long presentation, and I thought it would be helpful to have Jonathan talk to you all as well.
Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for speaking today.
Of course. Yeah, so it's good to be with you all. Jonathan Birch, Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. As Mary said, next slide.
Jonathan, let me give you, I don't know if I've told you this, but about half of the room are now representatives from individual municipalities, as opposed to just county board members. So now you've got a sort of a broader audience.
Nice. Yeah, well, it's good to see folks. So just as a little bit of context, next slide. As Mary said, HUD has come out with this affordable housing production focused grant opportunity, CDBG Pro or Pro Housing. It's really focused on removing barriers to the production of affordable housing. So something sounds a lot like the work that DuPage has already taken the lead on to do with Grounded Solutions, increasing housing production more generally and ultimately lowering housing costs for families. It is a pool of 85 million with a min grant size of 1 million, a max of 10. They are looking to make about 20 awards across the country. It is CDBG based. Ultimately, the application is due to HUD on October 30th. There's a 15-day public comment period. So functionally, we actually need to publish it like next Tuesday in order to make sure we gather all the comments and hold the public hearing and do all those sorts of fun things. Next slide. The other big thing is that HUD, as you might expect, common with a lot of sort of competitive grant programs, has a priority set of geographies that they really want to focus on. They have identified those both at the municipality and at the county level. The map on the screen is showing both of those. You can see on the sort of bigger map on the screen, the municipalities highlighted in green are the target municipalities or priority municipalities under HUD's measure, but they are also targeting the whole of counties. There's a similar sort of set of measures that they developed. And as you can see in that sort of upper right-hand corner, there are also a subset of counties. Not the whole of the region, not McHenry, Kendall, or Will, but all of the other counties, including DuPage, is one of those sort of priority area counties for HUD. Next slide. As a little bit of context, CMAP has actually been doing more work, is trying to ramp up our housing work while here. We have historically done that through technical assistance, often in partnership with other organizations like the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, the Illinois Housing Development Authority, or others. One of the big changes for us when they came in through the infrastructure bill a few years ago was changes in the actual statutory language for metropolitan planning organizations to include, amongst other things, language actually related to housing, specifically thinking about the interrelationship between transportation planning and housing planning. How where people live makes a difference on how they get to work, how they access amenities, where they travel, how they travel. I think I just said to the previous group, right, good proactive housing planning is good transportation planning. We don't just have to build the roads or expand the roads or think about how we run a bus service to a location after we build the housing. We can think about that at the beginning, which would be great. But ultimately, this sort of gives CMAP additional authority and space to be able to work in the housing space, which we're excited to be doing in the coming years, including through our technical assistance programs, which for the municipalities in the room, you probably know about some of the work have worked with us historically. I know Carroll Street, Madison have, absolutely. Next slide. In particular, we envision that in the coming years, some of our particular focus is going to be on two areas, one of which is about increasing awareness around the benefits of diverse and connected and affordable housing options across the region. And next slide, actually supporting the work of communities, very much in line with the technical assistance we have historically provided, to actually be able to help communities be able to operationalize that at the local level. And we've done that through a variety of different forms of assistance. Historically, it's been comp plans, but in recent years, we've also been focusing on plan implementation, zoning, and other sorts of things. With all this in place, CMAP started having conversations with county partners across the region back in August, thinking about whether or not folks had an interest around a potential application. We certainly heard a lot of support for the idea of a regional application, request for CMAP involvement, specifically interest in what we call the housing readiness framework. So CMAP has been thinking about additional roles and steps in place that we could be taking in the housing space, one of which was the idea of developing these housing readiness plans at the county level, which is something we are already thinking about and talking with select counties, particularly Kane, we'd already had some conversations with them about this. And the idea is that housing readiness plan at a county level would end up with a specific set of individual items for municipalities that would say, what does it mean to be for a community to be housing ready in a given county? And so some of that might relate to zoning, some of that might relate to building codes, some of that might relate to permitting processes, some of that might relate to fair housing or visitability or affirmative marketing or other sorts of things, but all of which come together to say, if you've gotten some progress on each of these different, check marks, if you checked a bunch of things off the list, you're moving along the spectrum to being more housing ready. We recognize there's variation across communities. Some things are more doable for some communities than other communities, but there are all steps that individually every community can take to be able to address these problems and become more housing ready. And that framework seemed to resonate, especially with the county representatives that we chatted with. We also recognize there's a lot of work that's going on. Mary just referenced some of the work that DuPage County has already been doing ahead of the game. Right, there's the existing subcommittee of the board that's been meeting, the existing contract with Grounded Solutions, the commitment that the board has already made, setting aside $2.5 million in order to be able to actually take action. All that's really exciting. DuPage has co-travelers on the path with it down this road. That includes Lake County that set aside money and worked with Valerie Kretschmer to complete an affordable housing study. They are in the process of wrapping that up right now. We're about to embark on the same sort of convening type work with both municipal and county representatives to start that sort of planning activity. Will County, which is getting ready to redo their county land resource management plan or county comp plan. And thinking about how to be able to actually add a housing element there for the first time. Kane and McHenry County that has elected leadership that, much like here in DuPage County, that wants to start being able to have those sorts of conversations and is starting to convene around those sorts of topics. And then finally, a common framing. So one, heard a lot about zoning, heard a lot about affordable housing production, about housing production generally, but the thing we probably heard even more about was on the workforce housing side of things. And thinking about the interrelationship between economic development and the growth of the regional economy and the types of housing we're building, where we're building it, and whether those fit hand in glove in order to be able to have a strong, thriving economy. Next slide. With that in mind, we feel like we've heard enough from all the various partners that we have 6 counties that are interested in participating in a CMAP-led effort to apply for pro-housing for the full $10 million grant award. I figure if we're going to go big and spend all this effort, let's see if we can bring home a big number. And we think it makes a lot of sense, and there's some great opportunities there. That includes the involvement of the counties of Cook, Kane, Lake, and McHenry in the development of housing readiness plans. That you'll see DuPage was not on that list. Will was not on that list. For context, you're already getting ready to embark on a planning study. Will obviously getting ready to embark on their new county comp plan, thinking instead about how you can mimic that housing readiness framework and the activities that those counties are undertaking separately. So it will fit within the whole, and we'll be able to build off of those next two bullets, which is CMAP providing direct technical assistance to things that we've done in the past, that being next our plan implementation focus program and the development of new unified development ordinances for towns around the region, in order to be actually able to implement that at the local level. So that might mean if one of your towns wants to apply to us through our typical technical assistance offerings, we'd be putting out there, we'd be saying, we're looking for communities that are interested in moving forward, actually implementing at the local level the recommendations of the county's grounded solutions plan. And then CMAP would provide that technical assistance through our existing vehicles to do so. And then finally, that there would be an about $7 million pool out of that 10 that would be available for county implementation activities, knowing that I'm sure the checklist of items won't just all be at the municipal level. Some of those will be at the county level too, and that there are important actions that the county can be taking, whether that is, ordinance changes, process changes that it can make on its own, whether that's funding, particularly innovative types of projects that it has not done historically, that would like to set the stage as a pilot that something could be replicated in the future, whether that's expanding the capacity of nonprofits or other sorts of opportunities. But that $7 million pool would be available for the counties that have completed housing readiness plans, including DuPage and Will, to be able to access that and leverage money that may be put aside locally already to be able to do even more implementation on the sort of county level broader, table setting activities that make sense coming out. Next slide. And what's on the screen is really just designed to try and cover all that stuff I just said in words and with text as more of a visual, right? The idea that every county in some way is going to end up with a housing readiness plan, would have municipalities that are able to access implementation assistance through CMAP, and would have available to it that county, county implementation pool of funds as well.
Can you explain this slide?
Yeah.
For DuPage and Will, how the housing plan is a different color than the other three. So
yeah, that's because you're taking your own separate action locally, but it will
Right.
be within this larger framework. So that's recognizing you're doing your grounded solutions work. They're going to do their county comp plan.
perfect.
One comment I brought up in the prior meeting is there's a $3 million amount of the grant funding that goes toward this implementation process that will, at first, he said, are not shared with DuPage County because we're already up to speed on that. But it shouldn't be unfair to us. We shouldn't be penalized because we've taken the lead and gone ahead and done this early implementation. So you did say there are some ways that we can participate in that $3 million implementation piece of it.
Absolutely, right. Part of the technical assistance for staff time at CMAP or consultant support that we'll be acquiring to be able to do next plan implementation projects in counties that have those completed plans, do new unified development ordinances. Those are the sorts of things that we can do. I think I mentioned last time, I don't think we have a town in the room today who we've done a zoning ordinance for, but I know we've done past technical assistance work with many of you, whether it be through House TV region or a comp plan, or I think Hillstream also had a comp plan.
And how does it work? Like when we get ready to find a property, we would then apply to CMAP for this piece of this money?
Yeah, so we should separate those out. There's the technical assistance, which is like planning, zoning, ordinance writing, those sorts of things. And so that's where an individual town, or maybe the county, if it was seeking that assistance, could absolutely apply for that. Then there's the county implementation pool, where we got to work out exactly how each of the individual counties will pitch what it is they'd like to access that pool for. But that's what we've been talking about.
Jonathan, what's the timing for Hudson? When do they anticipate announcing the awards?
Yeah, so they have said that they want to have an announcement by January. So by the end of January is when they're thinking that activity will start. I think we all know sometimes federal government, you were just saying, can be a little delayed. They may even be very delayed if things go poorly in the next 45 days, take some unplanned time off. But that's what their intention is. We have built the schedule for the activities, assuming that we would be able to actually start work on the grant, start building to it, those sorts of things, sometime in the spring, probably like April. So giving ourselves some leeway to get grant agreements signed, things of that nature. But we actually intend to start working on some of the scoping activities around those housing readiness plans as soon as we are complete with the grant application so that we can hit the ground running. It is the sort of thing where we have already been talking, as I said before, about doing housing readiness plans at the county level already, such that we are very much interested in pursuing this elements of this proposal, even if we are not funded on this, and it's just a question of how much and how much we can do. The beauty of going for this is it allows to do a lot more simultaneous than we probably otherwise could do. So for us, it's a capacity expander, I think.
So what's the, I don't recall, what's the term of the grant? 2
Yeah.
3 years?
So the answer is that we have between when the grant agreement is signed until September 30th of 2029. So we have a long runway.
Long term, okay.
We have a good 5 or a little bit over 5 years to be able to spend down.
I do love how all of the collar counties are all involved in this. This is going to be, I do think that will add to the forward momentum and shared resources and knowledge. And I think that's terrific, so that we're not siloing in this project. That's wonderful.
And no one's being singled out, right? It's
Right.
not like this town or this county is the problem. We all have a role to play, because we all can do a little bit.
Of course, yes, exactly, great point. Does anyone have any questions or any other comments?
We'll get a copy of the presentation.
And there's
Yeah, I can send
Jonathan's info, if anyone wants, we'll all get a copy then
Mhm.
of this,
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah, we'll send
wonderful.
it to I'll have Marge send it to the full group.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Jonathan, appreciate that. So no other questions or comments, so if any other objection, then I adjourn this meeting, our next meeting, November 7th, 2023. See you all then, thank you.